He's written a book. I'm in it. It's called Transverse. He writes amazing poetry. His name is Ash. Where is Ash? Yes, Ash Brockwell. Come. Louder, bring louder applause. Louder. Woo! I'm shorter, but you're shorter.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Wow, how can I follow that? Okay, thank you, RKP. Okay, so, as RKP said, Ash Brockwell, this is Transverse, which is a collection of poetry we created last year. There's 26 different contributors, of which I'm one, RKP is another, and there are probably others around here. Jani also has a poem in this book. And this is something we created for the Refugee Trans Initiative in Kenya. So, the first poem I'm going to do is called Your AFAB Does Not Define Me. AFAB, for those that don't know, means assigned female at birth. So this is a poem about transgender identity. Brain, male. Heart, male. Soul, male. And yet you imagine a word on a 40-year-old page can invalidate all the above. Get a life, daily fail. Yes, I was assigned female at birth, grew up behind net curtains with my secrets concealed inside, where nobody, least of all me, understood quite what was denied. I refused to answer to my given name at 5, hid growing curves under baggy sweaters at 12, felt weird and wrong around girls who wore makeup and heels and spent their weekends shopping for pink lace bras. That was all I knew. There were things I never tried to do because they just weren't done within that net. And many things that I wanted to say and couldn't have said, however I tried, because the words weren't even invented yet. There wasn't a language then for people like me. Transgender boy and transgender man were decades away. The teachers could have been fired just for saying gay. So in conclusion, secrets kept. Yet your AFAB cannot define me now, won't be erased, won't be denied. My existence is resistance, and if you dare try to delete me, I will resist. Assigning pink lace flowers to hide what you can't accept can no more erase the blue core of a trans man like me than King Canute's command, thus far and no further, could ever hold back the inrushing Solent tide. Whatever you choose to call me, whatever you say, I will ride the waves to places you never dreamed and live my self-made life as my truest self anyway. Because there's no way in again, now I'm out. Because this is who I am and have always been, and the only alternative is... let's not go there. I am here, defiantly turquoise, dynamic, impassioned, alive. So take your eraser, take your net curtains and go. I am still here at this meeting place of sea and shore, persistently pushing on as the waves do, and reminding myself day after day after day that there are more ways than one to be a man. There are more ways than one for the deep essence of a human soul to survive. Thank you. Okay, so this one is a song, which I'm not going to sing because my voice is all over the place at the moment because I'm on hormones, and it goes high and it goes low and it goes weird and it just doesn't do what it's supposed to. So I'm just going to read this one, but this is a song, it's called Coming Out of My Chrysalis. I'm coming out of my chrysalis now. I want to break out and touch the limitless sky, for I've discovered my courage somehow. See, I've been growing these wings and I think I might be ready to fly. I'm coming out of my chrysalis now. Here in the dark, I've been transforming, growing these rainbow wings. Now with the sunlight's gentle warming, see what the new day brings. This is my moment, I'm deciding. This is my time to go. All of the colours I've been hiding, I'm going to put on show. I'm coming out of my chrysalis now. I never thought that it would take this long, and I just don't know if I can be that strong. Who'd have ever thought that coming out could hurt this way? So if it's not too late, I think I'll change my mind and stay. No, I can't be me while I'm stuck in here. I've got to find a way through all this doubt and fear, because from far away I hear the flowers calling me, and I realise how much they need me to be free. Flowers, I hear you, just stay strong now, I will be with you soon. Light's breaking through, it won't be long now, tearing this thin cocoon. I wasn't made to crawl forever, nettles are not my world. One final push, it's now or never, see me with wings unfurled. See, I've come out of my chrysalis now. I've broken out now to greet the limitless sky, for I discovered my courage somehow. To see these beautiful wings, now I know at last I'm ready to fly. Who needs that empty old chrysalis now? Thank you. Right, this one is called From the Ashes of Who We Once Thought We Were. And this one is inspired by a poem by W.B. Yeats called The Lake Isle of Innisfree. I don't know if you know it. It's a guy who basically goes and lives on a little island in a lake in Ireland and has a beehive and birds and all sorts of lovely things, red squirrels, and just lives on his own in this little hut and with nobody to bother him. So this is called From the Ashes of Who We Once Thought We Were. In the endless spirals of losing and seeking and finding and losing, in the making and the breaking and the kaleidoscope picture remaking, in the names and labels that we burn only to be tangled in other labels and names that we burn, in the tears that the sunlight shines through to cast dancing rainbows into the dark corners, and in all of the speaking places and the listening places and the silent places where there is no more that I can say to you, beloved of my heart, and you have nothing more to say to me. In the imagined breaking apart of everything that turned out to have been only the breaking open of a chrysalis, in the grey misunderstandings that fog the mind, in all of this, we rise again like a wisp of wood smoke on an autumn evening, only half invisible. We rise from the tear-soaked ashes of all we once thought we were, and leave behind those names that still hurt us, those embers that still have the power to scorch. What if I were to live without a name or a label? What if I had no title, no pronouns, no papers? Would I stand in defiance with one foot crushing into the binary boxes, proclaiming loudly to the world, I am both at once and neither, I am all of the above and more? Or would I build myself a small cabin on the Lake Isle and live as Yeats and the red squirrels, on nuts and berries and clear water and deep love, with no heart for announcing, I am all this or I am all that? In the nights when the searing pain of remembering keeps me from sleep, in the dark hours before dawn when I walk skin-soaked through a drenched forest, in the morning sun that cracks the clouds and gilds their edges with a glow of hope, in the mental clamour of unbecoming all that I was judged to be, in the endless exchanging of he and him for she and her, in all of this, I've never quite given up believing in the power of love. This is all that I can ask of you, only to breathe with me, to trust that the love that spins the electrons of the planets is as intimately concerned with the rhythm of our in-breaths and our out-breaths as with the sparrows that call to us from the garden hedge, or the fragments of song that call to us from ancient soul worlds forever beyond our reach, or the wild spinning colours that our paintbrushes can never tame. To know that somewhere out beyond all our nonsenses, all our self-destructive fantasies, there is still a quiet place where you and I are as inseparable as the candle flame and its glow, and that the falling of golden leaves, however we might mourn it, is not the uprooting of the tree. Thank you. Called Outward Bound, and this for those that are not familiar with trans-masculine identities and transgender identities. This is about chest binding, which is a practice that a lot of trans men and trans-masculine people do in order to have a more masculine silhouette, a more masculine figure. And this is about something called gender euphoria, which is when you felt wrong or not quite right in your body all your life and something finally feels good. So that's what this is about. It's called Outward Bound. And it's inspired by a poem by E.E. Cummings, which isn't named, but one of the lines in it is, unbeing dead isn't being alive. So, here we go, Outward Bound. I've been a stranger in this body for 40 years, and I never fully knew it. When you've been used to wrong for so long, you have no idea there's a right at all, much less how to do it. They can tell you over and over that the body means nothing. Flesh is only flesh. It's the spirit that matters. It's not about the shape, the appearance, the look, the style. But what they don't tell you, meanwhile, is this. There's a physicality to the soul, a bliss in embodiment when lies shatter and your own truth is made whole, a sublime joy when the shape you see in the mirror finally matches the template laid down inside. Bound flat, I feel like me for the first time. Do you take it for granted when you're cis? Is it only when the truth has been denied with every nerve, or at best reduced to a fantasy that you know you don't deserve, or the shameful secret that you've always got to hide? Is it only then that you find such pure delight in letting yourself be real? Or is this in fact the way that most people feel? Are we the only ones who had to detach to survive, who had to shut down every feeling, stifle all sensation, bury every emotion and focus on unbeing dead, because we never knew there was an option of being alive instead? Dysphoria echoes through my chest, every breath a rainbow swirl. I have bound myself back into this flesh, opened my heart, and I finally start to arrive in this body that was never truly mine before. Held tight within this second skin, supported, safe, secure, I breathe the rightness in. ask myself yet again where I've been for so long and how, in the name of all that's beautiful, I never understood what it was that felt so wrong. Thank you.
Is that okay, number 12?
Inspired by, well, I don't know if inspired is quite the right word, but this was written about the ridiculous waiting times at NHS gender clinics. So roughly 3.5 years at the moment from when you first get your referral to when you actually get seen, and that's without getting any treatment. So that's just the first assessment appointment, and then after another year you might have another assessment appointment. Anyway, I'll let the poem explain it because it kind of goes into all this detail anyway. With respect, Health Secretary, we are running out of time. I refer, of course, to my patients who have been in a state of dysphoric meltdown since I first referred them to a gender clinic in the year 2016. The average waiting time in some clinics has now exceeded 3.5 years. That's a total of 42 months, 182 weeks, or approximately 1,274 days. Have you the slightest idea what that means to a person in a state of dysphoric meltdown? Do you have a clue what I'm talking about? I doubt it. Dysphoria probably isn't something you think about a lot. Don't be offended, but perhaps an example will bring it home to you. Imagine waking up and finding certain parts of your anatomy had gone missing, replaced by something that wasn't meant to be there. Don't try to tell me you wouldn't care. Even pissing wouldn't happen the way it was intended. Now imagine you had to wait 1,300 days to speak to someone who would make you an appointment to speak to someone else after another 9 months to a year, and at that second appointment they'd make a third, at which after yet another year you'd talk to them both and they'd interview your wife. Which is absurd, you have to admit, but hey, that's life. And even after all that they'd still say, wait a bit. So you'd try to complain, but it would all be in vain, and you'd write a letter to the Health Secretary. Oh, sorry, you are the Health Secretary. I mean the Prime Minister, and say, with respect, Prime Minister, we are running out of time. And it isn't a matter for debating. The simple fact is that no human being can possibly endure this much waiting. And the Prime Minister would simply shrug and say, that's life, I'm afraid, but don't worry, it will be so much better after Brexit. I simply don't understand why you're in such a hurry to fix it. And you'd give him a despairing look and say, all I want is to be me, to be complete, the way that I was meant to be. Is that really such a crime? With respect, Health Secretary, this is the unendurable situation of the patients that I referred to the gender clinic in 2016. Perhaps you'll have a little more empathy now you understand exactly what I mean. There are certain things that one can do, of course, behind the scenes, which provide temporary relief for a couple of years, but one dares not speak of those. One is likely to get some grief if one interferes with the cash cows that are milked by members of the establishment, I suppose. With all due respect, Health Secretary, you are not blameless in this mess. If patients with cancer were being told to wait a minimum of 5 years just to get a date for their life-saving surgery to be carried out, and by that time it was tragically too late, you'd certainly have to answer to the press. Ah, well, you say, you can't possibly compare the two. Dysphoria doesn't kill. But I tell you, we are running out of time, and if you don't do something soon, it will. Thank you. This is about the coverage of gender issues in the media. I thought that I was innocent. I don't quite understand. The Times has bought my story and it's all got out of hand. I'm now the public enemy. It doesn't make much sense. I always thought my only crime was peeing in the gents. But now they're blaming me, they say, for this destructive fashion of listening to children and of showing them compassion. For sex and gender are the same, as bigots all agree. If anyone thinks differently, they're catching it from me. It's all my fault when little girls refuse to play princesses and boys throw out their footballs and insist on wearing dresses. It won't end there, they darkly mutter, while inventing dramas of schools where half the pupils now identify as llamas. They claim I've barged in spaces where I clearly don't belong, denied the truth of science and just can't admit I'm wrong. A pervert and a criminal, I thrive on starting fights. I've trespassed in the swimming pool and torn up women's rights. They've let me have my way, they say, for far too long already. I've undermined society until it's quite unsteady, contaminated toilets with my trans-infested breath, and dealt the patriarchy blows that may yet cause its death. They say they know the truth at last. They found out my agenda of killing God and causing floods and redefining gender. And here's the worst, annihilating nature as we know it. There's nothing more that I can do except become a poet. Thank you. This one is called Trans Etiquette for Beginners. Number 1, basic principles. When you discover someone's trans, don't tell them that it isn't true. Don't ask them why they've made this choice or why they're doing this to you. Don't tell them it's the latest trend or ask how long this phase will last. Don't say you love them as they were and sob at photos from the past. Don't ask them what their old name was, or if you know, don't call them by it. Don't ever ask them what they've got between their legs. Just don't dare try it. Number 2, medical intervention or the lack of it. Don't ask them if they've had the op or when they plan on having it. For those on 3-year waiting lists, such questions make them feel like shit. And some folks can't have surgery and others just don't want an op. So even if you're curious, it's not your business. Please, just stop. Don't ask them when their boobs will grow or when they think they'll get a beard. If people asked you stuff like that, you'd roll your eyes and call them weird. Number 3, pronouns. Don't say, to me, you're always she. I'll never think of you as he. Don't say, to me, you're always he. I'll never think of you as she. And if they're neither she nor he, for pity's sake, don't ever say, the pronoun they is plural and there's one of you, you can't be they. You may hear other pronouns too, and if a person says they're Z or Zem or V or A or Faye, well, who are you to disagree? You ask why we're obsessed with pronouns. Tell me then, if you're a dude and someone called you she or her, you wouldn't find it rather rude? Or if you're female, Mrs, Ms or Miss, and someone called you sir, you wouldn't feel at all upset? You wouldn't change their him to her? If everyone misgendered you, you'd shout and moan and make a fuss. It sucks, it hurts, it just feels wrong. So please don't do the same to us. Number 4, media. The media is full of crap. My kid called trans and yours might too. They'll get it from a YouTube star and maybe pass it on to you. They're all erasing lesbians. Why can't they just admit they're gay? I used to be transgender, now I'm saved. I'll teach you how to pray. Trans women in the ladies' loo, they'll rape your daughters while they pee. Ignore the lot of them, my friends. You know the truth, and so do we. A side note on public toilets. It isn't rocket science, so I won't waste too much time on this. Trans women in the ladies' loo, just leave them be and let them piss. A bit of positivity. By now you might be thinking, is there nothing I'm allowed to say? Trans people are too difficult, I think I'd better stay away. But just before you make that choice, just stop and ponder for a minute and ask yourself, what would my life be like without these people in it? Don't whine about free speech and say you're not politically correct. It's really not that difficult to treat your friends with due respect. Thank you. I'm going to give it a go without the book because this is kind of acted out a bit, this one. This one is called Sometimes Waving but Mostly Drowning. I don't know if you know the poem by Stevie Smith that's called Not Waving but Drowning. So it's not based on that, but it's kind of inspired by that. And again, it's about transphobia in the media. Wave after wave, the shit rolls in. Hysterical headlines that seem so real to those beyond our circle, inked in lies. Telling the middle-class bigots that we're the target group they're now permitted to despise. Wave after wave, page after page of mindless rage, as if our eyes can't see, our hearts can't feel. Thugs on the streets or the buses throwing rocks or punches at us for holding hands. Mumsnet mums on their phones throwing digital slurs as they pack their children's lunches in eco-friendly paper bags and tie pink bands around their perfect plats. All running so damn scared because we, the gender rebels, dared to cut our hair and wear a shirt and tie and live as the men we are, or grow our hair and wear a skirt and tights and live as the women that we are, or dye our hair multiple shades of blue and wear rainbow unicorn socks and refuse to take any fucking gender box. Or indeed any combination of the above that might suggest for a millisecond that we love and respect ourselves the way we truly are. None of that matters in the end because the only way to play the game is their way, they say. To shine the masks up and pretend. Conform, they tell us. Knows we tried. We thought we could forget the truth of who we always were and just stay small and hide until the weight of masks began to suffocate us and the exhaustion of pretense began to break us somewhere deep inside until the moment came to realise it was this or die, and some chose this and others died. Our non-compliance is a threat, or so it seems, to the existence of their dreams of man the head, to the extent that in the eyes still blurred with lies of those who think they know it all, we would be better dead. Our flag is life and hope within our circle, but to them offensive, painting the sky with words they wish they never had to hear. And still, wave after wave, the shit rolls nearer. Photographs of those they hurt. Nazis escorted by police to keep them safe while they attack our pride. What about our safety? Don't we count? Swastikas flying freely, flouting law, and our flag trampled in the dirt and blood and mud. And we, thrown here and there by every wave, half broken, all exhausted, wash up now in some dark cave, as with our final strength we gather up the remnants of our flag from seaweed slimy rocks and wash the stink of fascists from our skin. And yet again, the mothers, frowning as we proclaim our right to breathe, begin a new petition. And we are here, still calling out for allies to join our coalition of the brave, sometimes waving, but if I'm honest, mostly drowning. Thank you.